you talk about your strategy, but you said that the culture overrides strategy. Is that
right? Yeah, well, Peter Drucker said, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast."
Right.
And that was something that I read early, and I've tried to maintain as a philosophy, that this culture of winning, this culture of being driven, this culture of also not just building rapport with the members, but building relationships.
Right.
Because I think rapport can be fleeting. We can build rapport in a matter of minutes, and then you leave and I leave and go about our day, and then that's it. There is no relationship. So I try to create connectivity to where there might be things that you could help me with, and things that I could help you with outside of the club. Also at the time, and it still holds true today, the majority of the team members are young, right? I've continued to get older. My team's still 24 years old. And when you're 24, you're still finding your way, right? You're finding your way in the city, you're finding your way through jobs, through connectivity, through relationships, things like that. So I wanted the teams to really be the conduit to not only what was happening in the club, but what was happening outside of the club.
Right.
And that comes from building a culture, a culture that was based on relationships.
Right. And how do you do that? When you mentioned that you manage multiple locations and people, how do you get what you, I guess, developed yourself, which is quite unique? There's probably not too many people that had that upbringing that you had, but how do you get someone that's 24 years old in a club, probably a long way from you, to share that same sort of outlook on connecting with members? And
it's a great question. I think the first thing is you have to identify the types of people that are going to A, succeed in our environment, and B, succeed under your command. Because maybe not everybody is going to, but there are types. I found that people that, and I started doing this in the interview process. A lot of people would read the resume and say, oh, you worked for so-and-so and you worked for so-and-so. I take that resume away. I want to know about the individual. What was it like when you were growing up? Were you raised by two parents? What did your parents do? What were the influences that you had? I want to understand the mechanics of this individual. Did you play sports? Were you good at it? Were you okay? Was it a struggle for you? What came natural? Those are the things that I would try to identify, because that would align with what I needed on my team.
Right.
So I knew that if I found the right people that would follow my guidance, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Right.
So that's really what it was, around connecting with the team and then building this universal culture, not only of understanding my leadership path, but also of competing with each other. Right? Because you want your team to be competitive. So a lot of time I would look for former military and former athletes, because I know that they've got that competitive drive.
Right.
They want to be first.
Right.
Yeah.
And is that something, so how often is that something you have to constantly be on top of people, or is that something that, once you've got that competitive thing set up, that it just takes on a life of its own without you necessarily having to be on top all the time?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, because I think that human instinct will kick in eventually, and a lot of people will try to take the path of least resistance.
Right.
They'll try to cut corners and so forth. So for me, it was around establishing kind of good character. Again, starting with the mission. We all have this mission, identifying what that mission was, gaining alignment through everybody, constant communication, regular meetings and teaching, ensuring you've got that unity, and then traveling from club to club, looking for breakdowns. So where were we breaking down, and then how could I shore that up? And then sometimes people wouldn't fit, and I would cull the herd quickly. I wouldn't. Once I identified that somebody wasn't going to work, I would replace that person, instead of having that person, be malignant inside my group and create a cancerous situation, because negativity tends to look for more negativity, right?
Right.
So I would get those people out. But you've got to be vigilant. I mean, you have to be.